Most people believe the deadliest 8,000-meter mountain in the world is K2, steep, brutal, and unforgiving. But there is another mountain, one many climbers quietly call easy, that has taken more lives than K2 ever has. It doesn't look terrifying. It doesn't constantly scare people away. And that's exactly where the danger begins. Before we break down why this mountain is so deadly, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy deep, honest stories about extreme places and the mistakes people make there. Now, let's talk about the 8,000 meters peak that kills not through fear, but through comfort. Let's begin. Most climbers fear K2, and that fear is well earned. With steep faces, narrow ridgelines, and violent weather systems sweeping in from the Karakoram, K2 has built a reputation as the ultimate test of high-altitude mountaineering. Historically, when measured against successful summits, K2's fatality rate has hovered around 23 to 25%. That means roughly one climber dies for every 4 who reach the top. Those numbers are widely cited, deeply respected, and often used as the benchmark for danger above 8,000 meters. But what if fear itself is not the most reliable indicator of danger? There is another 8,000-meter mountain, one that lacks K2's dramatic silhouette and does not dominate headlines. It doesn't look as violent. Its standard route appears shorter, less technical, and, at least on paper, more manageable. This mountain is Annapurna Wine, and for much of climbing history, it has quietly been more lethal than K2. Annapurna Wine rises to 8,091 meters, making it the 10th highest mountain in the world. From a distance, it does not look particularly monstrous. Many climbers describe its normal route as direct, meaning there are fewer complicated technical sections compared to peaks like K2 or Kangchenjunga. Because of this, Annapurna developed an early reputation as one of the more accessible 8,000-meter mountains. That reputation, however, hides a deeply unsettling reality. For decades, Annapurna held the highest fatality rate of any 8,000-meter peak. Historical analyses place its death rate between 32 and 38%, depending on the period examined. Even when using modern data, after improvements in equipment, forecasting, and logistics, Annapurna's fatality rate remains consistently higher than K2's. This means that statistically, a climber has historically been more likely to die attempting Annapurna than K2, despite Annapurna being widely considered less technically difficult. This raises an uncomfortable question. If Annapurna is easier, why does it kill more people? The answer lies not in difficulty alone, but in the nature of risk. K2 confronts climbers with danger immediately. Its steepness forces respect. Its exposure demands conservative decisions. Many climbers turn back early on, say too, precisely because the mountain feels unforgiving from the first step. Annapurna, on the other hand, often allows climbers to move efficiently and confidently through large sections of the route. That sense of progress creates momentum, and momentum, at extreme altitude, can be deadly. Annapurna is infamous for avalanches. Massive slabs regularly sweep down its faces, often triggered naturally by shifting snowpack rather than obvious storms. Unlike on other peaks, these avalanches frequently occur during what climbers would describe as acceptable conditions. Visibility may be good, winds may be moderate, forecasts may show no immediate danger, and yet entire teams have been wiped out in moments. This unpredictability is what makes Annapurna so lethal. There is often no clear warning, no dramatic change in weather, no obvious signal telling climbers to retreat. Survivors repeatedly describe the same experience. Conditions seemed stable, decisions felt rational, and then everything ended abruptly. In mountaineering, unpredictability multiplies risk more than difficulty ever could. Another factor that amplifies Annapurna's danger is human psychology at altitude. Above 8,000 meters, often called the death zone, the body and brain are slowly failing. Oxygen deprivation reduces cognitive function, narrows perception, and impairs decision-making. Even experienced climbers are not immune. On a mountain that feels manageable, these cognitive effects go unnoticed longer. Climbers do not feel threatened enough to question their judgment. They trust themselves at the exact moment they should not. This is where Annapurna becomes more dangerous than K2. On K2, fear forces humility. On Annapurna, confidence erodes it. There is also a controversial truth that many climbers hesitate to admit. Annapurna attracts a different type of risk tolerance. Because it is perceived as less technical, it has historically drawn climbers who might not attempt peaks like K2. This does not mean they are incompetent, but it does mean the margin for error is thinner. When unpredictable avalanches meet slightly reduced caution, fatal outcomes increase dramatically. Some will argue that comparing Annapurna to K2 is misleading because climbing styles and eras differ, and that argument has merit. Modern fixed ropes, weather forecasting, and commercial logistics have reduced overall fatality rates across the Himalayas. However, even when isolating more recent decades, Annapurna remains disproportionately deadly relative to its perceived difficulty. This suggests the issue is not outdated data, but an inherent mismatch between how the mountain looks and how it behaves. Interestingly, when climbers discuss the most dangerous 8,000-meter peaks today, Annapurna is often mentioned quietly, almost reluctantly. Everest dominates public attention due to overcrowding. K2 commands respect due to its reputation. Annapurna sits in the background, less talked about, but rarely dismissed by those who truly understand the statistics. And this leads to another uncomfortable discussion point. Popularity does not equal danger. Mount Everest has a far lower death rate than both K2 and Annapurna, yet many casual observers believe Everest is the deadliest, simply because they hear about it more often. In reality, Everest's fatality rate is typically estimated at 1 to 2%, largely due to fixed routes, rescue access, and extensive infrastructure. Danger is not defined by headlines. It is defined by probabilities. Annapurna's probability has always been unforgiving. What makes this especially troubling is that Annapurna rarely kills through prolonged struggle. Many deaths occur suddenly, leaving little time for rescue or adaptation. This strips climbers of one of mountaineering's most important safety mechanisms, the ability to reassess. On K2, danger builds. On Annapurna, it often arrives fully formed. This is why some experienced mountaineers argue that Annapurna is not just dangerous, but deceptive. It presents itself as achievable, then punishes that belief without warning. In this sense, Annapurna represents a broader truth about risk. The most dangerous situations are not the ones that scare us, but the ones that invite trust. And this is where controversy naturally emerges. Some climbers argue that Annapurna's reputation is exaggerated by early expedition data, and that modern teams can manage its risks effectively. Others believe that any mountain with such a persistent history of high fatality rates cannot be tamed, regardless of technology. Both sides have evidence, but the numbers, uncomfortable as they are, refuse to disappear. So when climbers ask which 8,000-meter mountain is the most dangerous, the answer depends on how danger is defined. If danger means technical difficulty, K2 may still deserve the title. If danger means unpredictable lethality relative to perceived ease, Annapurna makes a compelling and unsettling case. Perhaps the most important lesson here is not about Annapurna or K2 at all. It is about how humans assess risk. We prepare intensely for what looks extreme. We relax around what feels manageable. And at high altitude, that psychological shift can be fatal. Annapurna does not need to intimidate. It simply waits. So, the real question is not whether Annapurna is more dangerous than K2. The real question is this: how many climbers died not because they made reckless decisions, but because they trusted the wrong mountain at the wrong moment? And if easy can be deadlier than hard at 8,000 meters, what other risks in life do we underestimate simply because they don't scare us enough? So, maybe the most dangerous mountains aren't the ones that scare us the most. They're the ones we underestimate, the ones that look calm until it's too late. And Annapurna is proof that easy can be far more dangerous than hard. If this changed the way you think about risk in the mountains, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. In the next video, we'll look at the deadliest mountains nobody talks about, places just as lethal but far less famous and far more misunderstood. Because sometimes the mountains that don't make headlines are the ones that kill the quietest.